Well, there have been developments every day since the 24th of October when the Tata Sons board decided to replace Cyrus Mistry as chairman. Today was no different. Here are the top 5 developments of the day. At the top, Ratan Tata has written a letter to employees in a bid to soothe frayed nerves. Ratan Tata said in the letter that the decision to replace Cyrus Mistry was a difficult one, but it was taken after thoughtful deliberations. He goes on to say that he is looking forward to the selection of a world-class chairman to lead the Tata Group. Also, there seems to be no de-escalation from the Cyrus Mistry camp. Mistry's office has issued a statement saying that the insinuations that Cyrus Mistry acted on his own in the billion-dollar spat with Docomo is false and mischievous. Ratan Tata's lawyer, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, has told CNBC TV18 that the Tata Group's restraint should not be confused with reticence. Sources in the Tata Group have said that insinuations in Cyrus Mistry's letter are imaginary. And finally, Tata Group veteran and the man who led TCS for more than 4 decades, S. Ramudorai, has resigned as the chairman of the National Skill Development Corporation and Skill Development Agency. Is he on a comeback trail with the Tatas? Well, we don't have any information at this point in time to corroborate that, but this is a coincidence as it plays out in the midst of this developing story. But let's go straight to the top story and several of them today. To discuss this further, we've got Suhas Tuljapurkar of Legasis, Hitesh Jain of ALMT Legal, and Rajiv Kumar, the director of ICRIER. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us on the show. Mr. Kumar, let me start by asking you, sir, because there have been several developments of the day, but let me start by asking you what you make of Ratan Tata's letter to employees. It very categorically is a move to try and allay concerns and soothe nerves. But he also goes on to say, and this is a reiteration of what we heard in the first statement from the Tata Group, that this was a well-thought-out decision. It was a careful and thoughtful deliberation that led to the decision, and it is a decision that the board believes was absolutely necessary for the future success of the Tata Group. So once again, without going into details as to why, Mr. Tata, in his letter to employees, making it clear that this didn't seem to be a decision that was a personal choice, so to speak, or one that was taken in a hurry. What do you make of this latest development?
Shereen, I must say that this is once again an assertion and not an explanation, and therefore falls that much short of what is actually needed and desired to bring the credibility back to the board of the Tata Sons and to give Mr. Tata any benefit of the doubt that he may want at this time. If he has to, as I had pointed out earlier, 3 of his board members had just been recently appointed. It is very difficult for me to believe that they had all taken a very considered view, and all these all these facts were well known to them. Moreover, from the letter that Mr. Mistry's office has issued, it's very clear that if the least that we can say that there are 2 alternate views that can be taken about the ground realities as they have unfolded. There is also an op-ed today by Dr. Subramaniam of the Indian School of Business, which lays out very clearly that under Mr. Mistry, the Tata conglomerate has done much better than all the other comparable conglomerates over the last 5 years. So I'm afraid this doesn't wash, and this is Mr. Tata using his personality, using his status to try and calm nerves. But I'm afraid he may not succeed in what he's attempting.
Suhas, would you agree with what Mr. Rajiv Kumar is saying there, that that Mr. Tata is unlikely to succeed because, once again, there are no reasons there given behind the decision taken except to state once again that this was a board decision, it was a well-thought-through and a well-considered decision, and it was a decision, as Mr. Tata says in his letter, that was absolutely necessary?
Shereen, I would rather look at it differently from where Mr. Kumar is looking at. I would look at this communication as from an employer to an employee, and therefore it doesn't need to justify any of the actions. It has to say where the actions came from, and if these actions came from the majority of the board members, I think that's what probably Mr. Tata is saying in his communication to the employees. We'll have to look at this communication objectively. If it kind of strengthens the employees' from tomorrow onwards, I think it would have served its purpose.
Okay. Hitesh, which camp do you belong to, the Suhas camp or the Rajiv Kumar camp? Since we are talking about camps, do you believe that this letter will allay some nerves and apprehensions? And what do you make of the two approaches or the strategy? Because there seems to be a strategy that's being pursued by the Mistry camp, and there seems to be a strategy that's being pursued by Tatas, as Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi in his interview to us said that it's a strategy of restraint, not reticence. What do you make of the two approaches as well?
Well, this is first about the letter. It is a step in the right direction, and it has come from somebody who has been at the helm of the affairs for more than 2 decades. I can understand a new management coming and trying to explain the employees may have their own theories, but someone who has managed the group, who has been at the helm of the affair, who knows the group inside out, and somebody like at the stature of Mr. Ratan Tata, I think this letter does give, it will give a lot of confidence, and at the end of the day remove speculation. Insofar as strategy is concerned, I think Tata are very clear. They are not going to go legal. They have taken the decision, and the ball is in Cyrus Mistry's court. And the way, if Cyrus Mistry had to go to the court, for example, for removal of chairman, he could have gone on the 2nd day or the 3rd day itself. If he wants to go for 397, 398, I'm sure his advisors will advise him it's a long protracted litigation, and perhaps he may land up in a situation where in 397, 398, at the end of the day, if you allege operation mismanagement, the majority shareholder can always give you give an option to the minority that they're ready to buy out the stake and all. So I'm sure they are also thinking, they know that the legal options are limited. So when the battle is the battle of perception, and he was removed in the public eye and in the media, so I believe that, he's also taken it to the media, and therefore all the rebuttals, first rebuttal, second rebuttal coming in. So, I guess at both the sides there has been a lot of posturing, there's been a lot of words that have been coming out, particularly from Cyrus Mistry's camp. But we'll have to wait and watch as to where it leads, whether it leads to the court or whether it leads to the amicable resolution.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, you just heard what both Suhas and Hitesh had to say. So let me pick up on the last point that Hitesh made there. What, to your mind, seems to be the end game here? Because neither sides have gone legal just yet. And if one looks at what's happened over the past week, it seems increasingly clear that this may, in fact, end up being a protracted media battle before it is anywhere close to the vicinity of a courtroom. So what seems to be the, to your mind, how would you read the end game here as far as this matter is concerned?
Shereen, one, I'm afraid I couldn't hear at all what Hitesh had to say, some technical glitch. But I don't agree with what Suhas had to say, because, for 2 reasons. One, the fact that it is coming from the board was already well known. He didn't have to reiterate that. And clearly a public letter to the employees also is surely meant for the public at large, and to the shareholders and investors, everybody else. It may have been directed to the employees, but Mr. Tata knows well that it will go, it will be broadcast all over. So that's not the intention. That's not the intention. On the end game, Shereen, I think the fact remains that Mr. Mistry, I'm afraid, has a rather weak case. There are only 1 or 2 sort of provisions within the new company law which talk about the minority, the suppression of the minority shareholders, and the fact that there could have been, some, not the right things to be done, in which the board members went out of the board and hurt Mr. Tata, etc. earlier. But, he had a weak hand, and so I think he's going to go all out to get public sympathy and paint the other side in as dark a colors as possible. Maybe what happens in the process is that some new facts may tumble out, like that with the Docomo, for example. And that is a legal battle, because there are certain illegal bars.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, we're losing the connection with you, unfortunately, sir. So I'm afraid we can't hear very clearly what you're saying. But Suhas, before I let you go, we've now had about a week's developments to deal with. What do you believe looks like the end game as of today?
Shereen, at this juncture, I don't think the end game is clear from either side as the things look like. If there was a standstill and we were not getting these communications into media, I think one would have wondered that there is an end game and there is something which is being objectively looked at. I don't think the end game has emerged as yet. We may speculate that probably it's buyout of Shapoorji Pallonji Mystery Stake, as a 397 petition would make out to. But it's too early today to speculate on the end game. It still is a match where I think both the parties are trying to get back to each other and make allegations and counter allegations.
Hitesh, let me end by asking you, the signs of possible de-escalation at least don't seem to be evident as of today. We've seen a second rebuttal come in there from Cyrus Mistry, and you could see the Tata letter to employees, Ratan Tata's letter to employees as a response from the Tata side as well. But given where things are, do you believe that there is room at this point in time? There is some degree of flexibility even today for a meeting of ground, so to speak?
Well, of course. I mean, even if there is an aggressive posturing, the settlement cannot be ruled out, and this is evident from the various communiques that are coming. One can infer out of the communiques, one can infer out of the position. But as to what that common ground can be, that is something, that will be a speculation. But one thing is very clear: if the strategy is to go out all out in the public, have a media battle, try to play a victim card in the corporate battle, it doesn't help. Maybe in a battle between two individuals, that's a different thing. But a corporate battle is a crude corporate battle at the end of the day, and sympathy and media, all this, what you try to achieve, public sympathy and all, this can just give you a brownie points from the image perspective, but from the reality perspective, it creates more and more differences and gaps between the two sides. So I guess also, I mean, although there may be aggressive posturing, but I'm sure there will be some room for maneuvering, and if there is some step taken by both the sides in some direction to speak, you will suddenly see the whole discourse will change, and you will see parties aggressively trying to work out a settlement also.
Okay, well, we understand that those back channel attacks perhaps... Yes, Mr. Kumar, you wanted to make a final comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think Mr. Mistry will take this to the court. And I'm purely speculating, complete speculation on my part. But I think the manner of his removal and his first, two missives communiques that he's issued does show to me that he is in this for a long haul, and he'll probably not just go down, without a win. So we could see some more drama.
Well,
because there are some things which are on his side, and he will take advantage of that to fight his case out in the court as well.
Well, it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon, and we will probably see more twists and turns in this developing story. But Rajiv, Kumar, Suhas and Hitesh, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 to take stock of the developments of the day in the bitter boardroom battle. Coming